Hey everyone, and welcome. Now, if you own a business, manage a property, or you're responsible for any kind of workplace here in the UK, then you're in the right place. Today, we're going to break down one of the most important pieces of safety law you need to know about, the fire risk assessment. Let's really get into what this means for you. So, I want to kick things off with a question for you. Think about all the things that can go wrong in a business. Money troubles, tough competition, supply chain nightmares. What do you think is the single most preventable disaster of them all?
Yep, you guessed it, fire. While the damage can be absolutely catastrophic, the vast majority of fires in the workplace can be prevented. And that prevention, well, it all starts with understanding your legal responsibilities and, more importantly, acting on them.
To really get why this is such a big deal, we have to look past the flames, past the smoke alarms. We need to talk about the true cost of a fire at work, the kind of devastating cost that no insurance check can ever really cover.
The fallout is just massive. Beyond the absolute tragedy of someone getting hurt or worse, a fire can literally wipe a business off the map. We're talking about losing critical data forever, losing customer trust, losing all your momentum. The tough reality is that a lot of businesses, they just never open their doors again after a major fire.
Okay, so what's the shield? How do you protect your people, your livelihoods, from this completely preventable disaster? Well, the answer is a proactive and legally required process, the fire risk assessment. Just think of a fire risk assessment, or an FRA, as a health checkup for your building's safety. This isn't about ticking boxes on a form. It's a proper, systematic look at your workplace to figure out, okay, what could start a fire, who could get hurt, and what do we need to do right now to stop it from happening?
This quote really just nails it. This isn't about red tape or bureaucracy. It's your legal duty, for sure, but protecting people and property is also just one of the smartest business moves you can possibly make. It's about survival.
So where does this all come from? Well, the legal backbone for all of this is the Regulatory Reform Fire Safety Order 2005. And what it does is it puts the responsibility squarely on the shoulders of what's called the responsible person. And that could be you. It could be the employer, the owner of the building, a landlord, basically anyone who has control over the premises.
And listen, this is really important. There's been a massive recent change in the law. Before October 2023, you only had to keep a written record of your assessment if you had 5 or more employees. Well, that's all changed. Now the law says all fire risk assessments have to be written down. It doesn't matter if you have 1 employee or 100. If you have a workplace, this applies to you, no exceptions.
Okay, so you have to do it, but what does that actually look like? A fire risk assessment might sound a little intimidating, but the good news is the whole process is broken down into 5 pretty clear steps. Think of this as your blueprint for safety.
These 5 steps are a really logical path to follow. First, you hunt for the hazards. Second, you figure out who could actually be harmed. Third, you look at those risks and do something about them. Get rid of them, reduce them. Fourth, you write it all down, make a clear plan, and train your people. And finally, and this is key, you review it. It's a cycle, not a one-off job. So for step 1, what are you actually looking for? Well, it's about spotting the 2 main ingredients for a fire, a source of ignition and a source of fuel. We're talking about things like a dodgy extension cord, a pile of cardboard boxes, flammable liquids stored next to a heater. You get the picture.
And step 2 is all about people. And I mean everyone, not just your staff. You've got to think about customers, delivery drivers, contractors, and especially anyone who might be more vulnerable. People who might need extra help getting out, like young kids, the elderly, or someone with a disability.
Right, so once you've spotted the dangers and who's in harm's way, steps 3 and 4 are about taking action, putting in safety measures like alarms and fire extinguishers, and then recording it all in a clear plan. But that brings up a really big question for a lot of people. Should you try and do this yourself, or do you need to call in a pro?
So the law says the assessment has to be done by a competent person. Now, if your workplace is really simple and low risk, say a small office or a little shop, you might feel you're competent enough to do it yourself with the official government guides. But if your building is bigger, more complex like a factory, or high risk like a hotel, you should seriously consider hiring a qualified fire risk assessor. But here's the bottom line. Even if you hire an expert, the legal responsibility for getting it right, that still sits with you.
And if you're wondering what the price of getting it wrong looks like, well, take a look at this. £6 million. That was the potential refit bill a London council was looking at after major fire safety failures were found. It's just a massive reminder that paying for prevention is always, always cheaper than paying for the cure.
Which brings us to our final and maybe our most crucial section. A fire risk assessment is not a one-and-done task. It's not something you do once, file in a drawer, and forget about. It has to be a living document.
So let me ask you this. Once you've done the 5 steps, you've got your report written up, when is the assessment actually finished?
The answer? It's never finished. Your business changes, right? And that means your fire risk changes too. Your assessment has to keep up.
So when should you be reviewing it? Well, best practice says you should give it a look over every year. But you are legally required to review it if anything significant changes. Did you move some walls around? Hire a bunch of new people? Start storing new chemicals? Any of those things are a trigger to get that assessment out and make sure it's still fit for purpose.
At the end of the day, a fire risk assessment isn't just a legal chore. It's a powerful tool. It's one of the most effective things you can possibly do to protect the people and the business that you have worked so hard to build.
So I'll leave you with one final question to think about for your own place. Is your fire safety plan just a document sitting in a binder collecting dust on a shelf? Or is it a living, breathing part of your workplace culture that keeps everyone safe every single day?